Imagine this, Tripoli waking up slowly. That sound of the call to prayer hanging in the air over these scarred rooftops. And there's Layla, sitting on a chipped stone step, her son right there beside her, looking at her phone. On the screen, a simple dashboard, 5 circles, 3 green, 2 red, and the words, approved, school meal budget released. Now, to us, maybe just a notification, right? But for Layla, it feels like something lost, something buried is actually coming back. She remembers, the councils they used to have under the olive trees. Decisions were made. They were respected. Her dad's clinic always had medicine. Schools didn't send kids home because fees weren't paid. But that world just shattered back in 2011. The council's gone. Savings disappeared. Clinics closed down. Classrooms got smaller and smaller. It was like the drum that used to gather. Everyone just went silent. And now here she is looking at this cracked phone screen, and there's this digital pulse. A new circle, maybe. She's wondering, could this little glow actually stitch back together that fabric she thought was gone for good? So, okay, let's unpack this. This deep dive is really about how these ancient ways of governing in Africa are finding a new rhythm, not with the old drums, but, on digital screens. We've got some really fascinating sources talking about how new tech is bringing permanence and transparency to systems that were honestly incredibly sophisticated, but also fragile.
And what's really striking, I think, is how the source material frames this. It's a return, they say, not something totally new. It suggests Africa never really lacked governance. What it lacked was maybe permanence, which makes you ask, right, how did these sophisticated communal systems actually work historically, and what made them so vulnerable? So our mission today really is to explore that history, look at real examples happening right now, and maybe get a glimpse of where this digital evolution could lead.
Okay, let's start there then. With those historical echoes, the material we've looked at, it paints this picture of really advanced communal kind of just ways of governing in Africa's past. Can you give us a feel for what they actually look like on the ground?
Absolutely. I mean, think way back, Mansa Musa, 14th century Mali. Those massive caravans crossing the Sahara, heavy with gold. What kept them safe wasn't just guards. It was these honored agreements, this web of trust connecting towns. That's powerful governance.
Wow, built on trust, not just force.
Exactly. Or picture Timbuktu. Scholars under the palm trees at Sankor debating law, no single person dominating, right? It was about collective wisdom. Then you go to the Swahili coast, places like Kilwa. Merchants in these beautiful coral stone halls deciding together when the trading fleets would set sail. Collective economic decisions.
Okay.
And it's not all ancient history either. Even today in Ethiopia, you've got elders climbing the cliffs at Debre Damo. They sit in circles, and consensus, just talking it through, is the law.
So these weren't primitive at all?
Not even close. They were sophisticated, communal, often focused on justice. But here's the catch. They were fragile. They lived in memory, in spoken rules, in traditions, really vulnerable to, interruption.
Interruption like what exactly?
Well, war could sweep through, rulers could fall, outsiders could arrive and just impose a whole new system. The structures themselves, because they weren't, say, written down in stone or digitally recorded, they could just vanish. The drum could literally stop beating.
That's a really crucial point, the fragility. So if they were so wise, why couldn't they hold up? Did the sources touch on how maybe external forces specifically targeted that lack of permanence?
Yeah, they do. It wasn't really a flaw in the wisdom of the systems you see. It was about the medium. Oral tradition, shared memory, incredibly powerful when the community's stable. But they lacked that unalterable physical record that could survive major shocks. And yeah, colonial powers often dismantle these systems quite deliberately. Why? Because decentralized power, community councils, they make top-down control much harder.
Oh, okay.
So they weren't usually breaking from within. They were often actively disrupted and replaced with more centralized, often, frankly, extractive models. Easier to control, easier to take from.
Which makes the next part even more interesting, doesn't it?
Right.
Because if that old drum was fragile, the material we reviewed describes how bits and pieces of these ideas are flickering back. But this time with a beat that's much, much harder to silence.
So what are some of these pilots happening now? How are they actually making these systems more resilient? Okay, this is where it gets really practical and I think exciting. Take Nairobi. There's this thing called Serafu credit. Started pretty simply, actually, on WhatsApp. Imagine a woman in Kibera needs a bit extra to restock her vegetable stall. She puts out a request for digital tokens.
Okay.
And within minutes, her neighbors chip in. Not charity, it's like Digital reciprocity.
Like a community helping itself.
Exactly. And every single transfer is recorded on a ledger nobody can secretly change. It's like rebuilding microeconomies based on that old trust, but with a permanent record this time, making them more resilient to outside shocks.
Okay, what else?
Then head over to Kampala. Farmers using something called maize DAO. That's a decentralized autonomous organization basically run by code and its members, not a boss.
Right, DAO. Heard of those.
So these farmers may be using pretty beat-up smartphones. They snap photos of their grain receipts.
Simple enough.
And within hours, not weeks or months, digital tokens representing their payment land directly in their wallets. Transparently.
Well, that must cut out a lot of middlemen.
Huge difference. It cuts them out, and the sources say it's raising farmer income by around 30%. That's not just numbers, that's food versus no food, or kids staying in school. It shows how direct digital access really shifts the economic power.
30% is massive.
It's life-changing. And one more ukra, Gunna Gold Trace. Artisanal miners, small-scale miners, they get to vote on export contracts.
Instead of deals done behind closed doors.
Precisely. The votes are public, counted automatically, and they are binding. And get this. Within a year of starting, reports of illegal or undocumented gold sales dropped nearly 40%.
Wow. Just by making it visible.
Visibility and accountability. It shows how transparency can start dismantling those exploitative systems, keeping wealth in the community.
Okay, but it can't all be smooth sailing, right?
Right.
The sources must mention downsides, challenges.
Oh, absolutely. They're realistic. Connectivity is still patchy in places, right? Sometimes the token exchanges can be slow. And honestly, not everyone immediately gets how the tech works. There's a learning curve. But the core point they make is, these pilots prove it can be done. Trust, accountability, you can actually code them into the system, make them visible, make them permanent, impossible to just erase.
So these challenges, connectivity, understand the tech, the sources see these as like temporary bumps, or are they fundamental roadblocks that could stop this from really scaling up?
The general feeling from the material is that they're mostly temporary hurdles. Technical issues like connectivity are improving incredibly fast across Africa, and user interfaces are getting simpler, more intuitive. Think about how quickly people adopted mobile money, right?
True.
The argument is that the need and the desire for systems that are fair and transparent are so strong, communities are motivated to get past those initial hurdles. The core ideas, permanence, decentralized control, are just too powerful to ignore.
That makes sense. So if these are the sparks we're seeing now, what about the fire? What's the bigger vision the sources are painting for the future?
Oh, the vision is really ambitious. It builds directly on these successes. Imagine airlines run like cooperatives.
Owned by passengers.
Owned by the passengers, yeah. Using tokens to decide routes based on community need, not just investor profit. Or think about land titles. Instead of paper files that can get lost or manipulated, you have secure digital records. Farmers get paid dividends directly from harvests. No layers taking a cut.
That would tackle huge issues around land rights.
Massive. Or coffee. Instead of exporting raw beans, imagine it being roasted in Addis Ababa, each bag tokenized so you can trace its history, ensuring the growers actually keep more of the final value.
Creating value locally.
Exactly. Or even, say, miners in the Copperbelt pooling capital using tokens to build their own refinery. And the profits don't just vanish offshore. They fund clinics, schools, roads, right there in the community, built by the community for the community.
That's a powerful shift.
And the sources are clear. This isn't just wishful thinking. They stress that, quote, each of these pieces already exists somewhere in Africa in smaller forms. The technology is there. The models are emerging.
So the big challenge is scale.
It's scaling up, taking these successful local initiatives and finding ways to connect them, expand them.
That vision of self-governance, direct benefit, it's compelling. But okay, holding land titles on-chain, running airlines, that sounds complex. What about security? Data breaches? And doesn't this risk creating a new kind of inequality like digital haves and have-nots? Do the sources wrestle with that?
Definitely do. It's a critical point. They acknowledge that, yeah, putting things on chain gives you permanence, but security is paramount. The risk shifts, you know, from someone stealing a paper file to maybe cyber threats.
Right.
So you need constant innovation in digital security. It's not a one-time fix. And on inequality, that's a real concern, too. The argument isn't that everyone needs the latest iPhone. It's more like the Kampala farmers, even basic older devices can be an access point if the system is designed right.
The design is key.
Absolutely. The focus has to be on lowering barriers to entry, making it as inclusive as possible from the start. The danger is just replicating old power structures digitally. The goal is to actively avoid that.
Got it. Okay, let's bring this down to a really human level. There's a story in the material about two people, Kevin and Miriam. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this one really crystallized it for me. Picture this. A development camp, Addis Ababa. Miriam's there, and she's talking to Kevin from Abuja. And Kevin is just visibly frustrated. He'd done 3 months' work for an NGO, good work, but the funds were stuck somewhere in the system. And his landlord didn't care about process, he wanted cash.
A familiar story for many people, sadly.
Too familiar. So Miriam, who's probably heard this 100 times, just asks him, what if you didn't have to wait? And Kevin just kind of laughs, bitterly, says, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And Miriam replies, not yet. And right there, they started sketching it out. An idea for something called BuildaDAO's Payroll Bot. The concept is simple but revolutionary. You record proof that the work was done on-chain, securely, transparently on that shared ledger.
Verified.
Verified. And the moment it's verified, payment is released instantly. No waiting for signatures, no funds stuck for months.
No more silence when the rent is due.
Exactly. And the really cool part, this isn't just talk. The Payroll Bot, it's actually on BuildaDAO's development roadmap. They intend to build it.
That image, miners funding their own clinics, Kevin getting paid instantly, it really reframes things, doesn't it? Away from extraction towards direct benefit and, well, dignity. The whole deep dive, it feels like we've traced the journey from that ancient gathering circle called by a drumbeat to this new kind of circle beating in your pocket on a phone screen. It's all about finding ways to bring back that community trust, but with added permanence, added transparency for things that fundamentally shape people's lives. We've seen how just a notification can signal real hope, how old governance ideas are getting this tech-powered reboot, and how that future of cooperative, transparent systems, it's actually being built piece by piece right now across Africa.
And if you zoom out, connect this to the really big picture, it leaves us with a question, doesn't it? For you, listening right now, in a world that seems to be craving more trust, more accountability everywhere, what other parts of our lives, our communities, our economies could be genuinely transformed? Transformed if we used these kinds of transparent digital systems to empower people directly. Like Layla getting that school meal budget approved, or those farmers in Kampala getting paid fairly and quickly.
Yeah, really think about that. What does it mean to be counted? To be part of a digital circle where things are clear, where the benefits flow directly? What systems in your world, your community, your work might just benefit from the beat of this new digital drum?